Deep in the heart of Fernwood Forest, where the moss was soft like pillows and sunlight danced through thick green canopies, a gentle hush wrapped the trees each morning. It was a forest full of life, peaceful, mysterious, and filled with tiny wonders waiting to be discovered. One early spring morning, as dew clung to the leaves like little stars, a robin named Rosie sat on the highest branch of an old sycamore tree. She fluffed her red-orange feathers and let out a cheerful song that echoed like a bell through the stillness. Her song wasn't just any song, it was the signal that the day in Fernwood had begun. Below Rosie's branch, a sleepy squirrel named Tibbet yawned and peeked out of his cozy hollow. "Mm. Time already," he murmured, rubbing his eyes with tiny paws. Tibbet was known for two things: his love for nuts and his even greater love for sleeping in. As the notes of Rosie's tune floated down, Tibbet blinked and stretched. "Can't miss breakfast." He chirped and scurried down the tree, his fluffy tail bouncing like a kite behind him. Near the base of the tree, soft rustling came from a patch of ferns. Out popped a pair of round ears and a little brown nose. It was Millie, a young mouse with bright eyes and a heart full of curiosity. She nibbled a berry and looked up. Rosie's singing again. That means the forest is waking up. More sounds began to fill the air: buzzing bees, rustling leaves, and distant woodpecker knocks. The forest was stretching, yawning, and coming alive. Rosie finished her song and fluttered down beside Tibbet and Millie. "Good morning, friends," she chirped. "Did you sleep well?" "Like a log," said Tibbet. "I had a dream I rode a dragonfly across the river," squeaked Millie, eyes sparkling. The three laughed together, their voices blending with the forest's soft chorus. Just then, a rustle came from the brambles, and out waddled a hedgehog named Hugo, still wearing a leaf on his head from a clumsy roll in the grass. "Morning already?" Hugo asked, blinking sleepily. "Did I miss the first song?" "Only a little," Rosie smiled. "But the day's just starting." The friends decided to visit the Great Pine Clearing, a sunny glade where many forest creatures gathered each morning. As they walked along the winding mossy trail, Tibbet told stories about his nut-finding adventures, Hugo tried not to trip on roots, and Millie pointed out wildflowers blooming like painted stars. At the clearing, the friends saw familiar faces: an owl named Olwyn perched quietly on a stump, two chattering chipmunks named Pip and Pickle, and even Shy Fern the fox, who watched from behind a bush. It was another ordinary morning in Fernwood, but in this forest, every day held a little magic, a little laughter, and something new to discover. The morning sun filtered gently through the tall pine trees of the great clearing, warming the forest floor with golden light. Dew sparkled on every blade of grass like diamonds, and tiny butterflies flitted from flower to flower. Tibbet the squirrel, always in search of hidden treasures, scampered up a nearby tree and peered down. "I spy something shiny under the big stump," he called, tail flicking with excitement. "Something shiny?" Millie's ears perked up. "Maybe it's treasure." Rosie fluttered to the edge of the stump and tilted her head. "Let's see what it is. But be gentle. We don't want to disturb any roots." The friends gathered around the base of the ancient stump, covered in thick moss and tiny mushrooms. Hugo used his sturdy paws to carefully brush aside some leaves. Beneath the roots, tucked away in a little hollow, was a small glimmering stone shaped like a teardrop. It shimmered in soft blue and green, glowing faintly in the dappled light. "Oh," breathed Millie, her whiskers twitching. "It's beautiful." "What do you think it is?" asked Hugo. "Maybe it's a moon pebble," said Tibbet, eyes wide. "No," said Rosie, looking thoughtfully. "It doesn't feel like just a pebble. I think it might be something special." Just then, a breeze stirred the leaves, and a soft humming sound seemed to echo around the stump. All the friends grew quiet. The forest itself seemed to be holding its breath. From behind the stump, a voice spoke low and ancient, like whined through the trees. That is the heartseed. The animals jumped in surprise. An old badger stepped into the clearing. His fur was silver and black, and his eyes glowed gently with kindness. He leaned on a walking stick made of oak wood. "Elder Bartholomew," Rosie chirped. "You startled us." Bartholomew chuckled. "Ah, forgive me. My paws are quiet these days. I see you've found the heartseed. It's not often it appears." "What is it?" Millie asked softly. "The heartseed is a gift from the forest," Bartholomew said. "It shows itself only when it senses great friendship, kindness, and curiosity. It holds a bit of the forest's ancient magic." Everyone stared at the glowing stone in awe. "What does it do?" asked Hugo. "It will show you the way when you need it most," Bartholomew said. "But only if you care for the forest and each other." Tibbet scratched his head. "Like a forest compass?" Bartholomew chuckled. "Something like that." With gentle paws, Millie placed the heartseed in a small leaf pouch and tucked it carefully into a knot in the tree stump. "We'll keep it safe," she whispered. Rosie nodded. "Let's make this our secret, just between us and the forest." All around them, the trees seemed to whisper in agreement. As the day went on, the forest buzzed with quiet excitement. The heartseed had chosen them, and though none of the friends knew what adventures lay ahead, they all felt something had changed. The forest was stirring, and Fernwood was ready. The next morning in Fernwood Forest arrived with a silvery mist. It curled between the trees like soft ribbon, clinging to spiderwebs and mushrooms with pearly light. Rosie fluttered from her nest in the sycamore, letting out her usual dawn song. But today, her voice sounded just a little more thoughtful, a little more curious. Something felt different. Millie popped her head out from under a pile of moss she called a bed and looked around. "The air smells funny," she said, twitching her nose. "Like snow. But it's spring." Tibbet, already digging near the oak roots, sniffed. "Snow? It smells more like clouds." Hugo arrived with his usual clumsy steps, carrying a tiny basket of wild berries. "It's definitely breezier today. My quills got fluffed up on the way here." As the friends gathered in the clearing, a sudden gust of wind swept through the trees with a whoosh, lifting leaves into the air and spinning them in a slow dance. Right in the center of the swirl, something floated down light as a whisper, gently landing on Millie's head. "A feather," she giggled. "It tickles." Rosie flew up to take a closer look. The feather was unlike any she had ever seen. It shimmered with colors like the sky at sunset, soft lavender, deep silver blue, and streaks of golden white. It glowed faintly, just like the heartseed. Bartholomew appeared from the trees once more, his old eyes blinking in wonder. "A north wind feather," he said quietly. Millie's ears perked up. "A what?" From the skies far beyond Fernwood, Bartholomew explained. "It's said that when one of these feathers falls, it carries a message from the skies. A sign that something old is stirring." Rosie looked at the feather closely. Could it be connected to the heartseed? "Perhaps," Bartholomew said. "The forest speaks in many ways: stones, feathers, whispers in the wind. All are signs if you learn to listen." Tibbet took a brave step forward. "So, are we supposed to do something?" Bartholomew smiled. "The feather fell on you, Millie. Maybe you're the one meant to find out." Millie's eyes grew wide. "Me? But I'm just a little mouse." "But a very brave one," Rosie said kindly. "You discovered the heartseed, didn't you?" Millie nodded slowly. "Okay, then maybe I'll try to follow the wind." That evening, as the forest settled under a quilt of stars, the friends gathered at the stump once more. They placed the glowing feather beside the heartseed. The two glimmers pulsed gently, side by side, sky and earth, feather and seed. Rosie looked around at her friends. What if this is the beginning of something important? Hugo scratched his chin thoughtfully. Then we better stick together. And bring snacks, Tibbet added seriously. They all laughed. Above them, the moon rose high over Fernwood, casting soft light across the treetops. The wind whispered again, just for a moment, brushing their fur and feathers gently. As if the forest itself was watching over them. And somewhere, far away in the northern. The days in Fernwood began to feel brighter, fuller, like the forest itself was humming a soft melody only the animals could hear. The heartseed glowed gently inside its stump, and the north wind feather rested beside it, unmoving yet strangely warm to the touch. One breezy morning, Tibbet couldn't sit still. "I've got the wiggles," he said, bouncing on a tree root. "Let's explore somewhere new." Rosie fluttered nearby, preening her wing feathers. "Maybe we should follow the breeze." The feather did fall from the wind. "Where do we even begin?" Millie asked, looking around at the towering trees. Bartholomew happened to be resting nearby in a bed of moss. With a slow stretch, he looked up. "If you want to find your path, the forest may show you the way. Start with the wishing tree." Millie blinked. "What's the wishing tree?" "A tree so old its bark remembers dreams," Bartholomew said. "It's not far, past the creek and under the Twin Hills." With excitement bubbling, the four friends packed their pouches. Rosie flew ahead, guiding them through tangled vines and flower-dotted meadows. Tibbet climbed trees to scout from above, while Millie rode gently on Hugo's back when the path grew steep. At last, they arrived at a grove filled with birdsong and sunlight. In the center stood a tree taller and thicker than anything they had ever seen. Its bark was twisted with time, and ribbons, beads, and feathers hung gently from the branches, gifts left by forest creatures through the years. "That's it," Rosie whispered. "The wishing tree." They stepped closer, each one placing a paw or wing gently against the bark. A faint hum filled the air, like the rustle of leaves in a forgotten dream. Suddenly, Millie gasped. "Look!" Where her tiny paw had touched, the bark began to shift. Not breaking, not falling, just changing. Swirling patterns carved themselves into the wood, forming lines and curves. After a few moments, a map had appeared, etched directly into the tree. They stared in wonder. The map showed Fernwood from above, the great clearing, the ancient stump, the hills, and a trail leading beyond, into a darker part of the forest where none of them had ever dared to go. "What's that place?" asked Hugo, pointing his paw toward the shaded edge of the map. Bartholomew, who had followed silently and now stood behind them, answered softly. "That is the Whispering Hollow, a part of Fernwood long forgotten." Tibbet looked nervous. "It looks spooky." "It might be," said Bartholomew. "But sometimes, old places hold the answers we seek." Millie looked from the map to the feather and then to her friends. "I think we're supposed to go there." Rosie nodded, a bit more serious now. "Then tomorrow we begin the journey." As the sun dipped low, the map faded gently back into the tree's bark. But in their hearts, each of them remembered the way. The forest had given them a path, and tomorrow they would follow it. The morning air was thick with mist, as if the forest wanted to keep its secrets a little longer. Birds sang quietly, their notes soft and thoughtful. At the base of the old sycamore, Rosie, Tibbet, Millie, and Hugo gathered one last time before setting out for the Whispering Hollow. "I packed acorns and raspberries," said Tibbet, proudly patting his leaf pouch. "I brought 2 blankets," said Hugo. "One for sitting and one in case Tibbet spills the raspberries again." "I didn't spill them," Tibbet muttered. "They just jumped out." Rosie chuckled and fluttered onto Millie's shoulder. Ready, adventurer? Millie nodded. Ready. With hearts full of wonder and paws light on the moss, the friends followed the winding trail past the great clearing, then down to the place where two soft hills rose like sleeping bears. At the base of the hills, a narrow trail opened up, barely visible except for a few scattered wildflowers that pointed the way, just like on the map. The trees began to grow taller and closer together. The sunlight dimmed. The sounds of the forest, the rustling leaves, the birdsong grew quiet. It was a hush unlike any they'd ever heard. "I don't like how still it is," Tibbet whispered. "It's okay," said Rosie, fluttering a little closer to him. "We're together." Then came a strange sound, a soft whisper, not wind, not voice. It seemed to drift through the air like breath through grass. "The Whispering Hollow," Millie said. "We made it." The hollow opened before them, a hidden glade where the trees bent inward, their roots weaving through the earth like braids. The light here was soft and silvery, not from the sun, but from glowing mushrooms dotting the ground. Mist clung to everything, but it felt gentle, like a cool blanket. In the middle of the glade stood a stone arch, worn smooth by time and tangled with ivy. Beneath it, there was nothing, just darkness, swirling gently like water beneath ice. "What is that?" Hugo asked, stepping closer. Before anyone could answer, the heartseed, tucked in Millie's pouch, began to glow brightly. The feathers shimmered beside it, pulsing gently with the same rhythm. Rosie blinked. "They're reacting to that arch." Millie held the pouch up. As she did, the swirling mist under the arch parted, and a faint path appeared, made of silver light. "It's a doorway," she whispered. "Where does it lead?" asked Tibbet. "I don't know," said Millie. "But I think we're meant to go through it." Hugo gulped. "Even me?" "Especially you," said Rosie with a smile. The four stood before the arch, side by side. Behind them lay everything they knew. Ahead of them was something ancient, quiet, and calling. Together, they stepped through. And the hollow whispered their names. As Rosie, Tibbet, Millie, and Hugo stepped through the misty arch of the Whispering Hollow, a hush fell over them, not an empty silence, but one full of wonder, like the quiet of snowfall or the stillness before a dream begins. The silver-lit path wound gently downward, soft under their paws and claws. Around them, the air shimmered faintly, and the trees looked older, taller, darker, their bark twisting with moss and lichen in colors they'd never seen before. Then, suddenly, they stepped into a clearing, and the world lit up. "Whoa," breathed Tibbet. All around them, thousands of glowing pods hung from tree branches, soft yellow, orange, and pink lights floating in the darkness like fireflies caught in bubbles. The trees here had silvery bark, and their leaves shimmered like glass in the dim light. "It's like stars grew on trees," Millie whispered. "This must be the Lantern Grove," Rosie said, fluttering up to inspect one of the pods. Inside it, a tiny light flickered, almost like a heartbeat. As the friends stepped farther in, the lights began to blink slowly, one by one, as though they were watching the newcomers. Then came a soft voice from above. "Visitors?" In the grove. A shape unfurled from a branch, a gentle creature with long ears, flowing fur, and wings like soft parchment leaves. Her eyes glowed a soft amber, and her voice hummed like wind in tall grass. "I'm Leora, keeper of the Lantern Grove." The friends stood in awe. Millie gave a small bow. "Hello. We didn't mean to intrude. We followed the path." "The heartseed led us," added Rosie. Leora floated down gracefully and landed beside them. "Few creatures have been guided here in many, many seasons. This grove only glows when the forest dreams, and tonight it is wide awake." She turned and gestured with her paw. "Each lantern you see holds a story, a memory of Fernwood from long ago. They are whispers of the past. Rosie tilted her head. Can we see them? Leora smiled. You may see one. She led them to a lantern that glowed the softest blue. As she tapped it gently, the pod opened like a flower, and a swirl of light emerged, forming pictures in the air. They saw Fernwood as it once was, rivers wider, trees even taller, and creatures they had never seen, huge deer with glowing antlers, flocks of silver doves, and foxes with fur like firelight. And then, the forest dimmed. A shadow spread. The images flickered and vanished. What happened? Asked Tivit, his voice small. Leora looked at them gently. A part of the forest's magic was lost. Something ancient was hidden, waiting to be found again. Millie held out the pouch with the heart seed and the feather. Are these part of it? Leora's eyes widened. They are the key. Just then, the lanterns flickered rapidly, soft blinks of alarm. The wind is shifting, Leora said. Something approaches from deeper within. The friends looked at one another. Do we keep going? Hugo asked. Rosie nodded firmly. Yes, we've come this far. The trail of light led the friends beyond the glowing lantern grove, winding through ferns that glowed faintly like moonlight and moss that felt as soft as feathers. As they walked, the forest became quieter, not in an empty way, but as if listening closely, holding its breath. I can hear something, said Hugo, tilting his head. Tivit twitched his ears. It's like singing? But not quite. Sure enough, a low hum filled the air. It was steady and gentle, rising and falling like a lullaby. The path dipped and soon opened into a wide glade where a river curled lazily through the trees. But this was no ordinary river. Its water shimmered in hues of violet and teal, and as it flowed over smooth stones, it hummed not with words, but with music. The singing river, Rosie breathed. I've heard legends. They say it carries the stories of Fernwood in its song. Millie stepped carefully to the edge and touched the surface. The moment her paw met the water, the humming grew louder, and soft images swirled in the river's current. Visions of trees growing tall, animals playing in meadows, and stars falling into the forest like snow. Suddenly, a small figure rose from the water, a dragonfly with wings like glass and a tiny crown of lily petals. Greetings, travelers, the creature said, her voice ringing like wind chimes. I am Nereus, river guardian and keeper of the song. The friends bowed politely. We're following the path of the heart seed, Millie explained. We don't know where it ends, but we feel like we're meant to keep going. Nereus's wings fluttered. Then the river will help you cross. But first, it must know your hearts. She dipped her feet into the current, and the humming grew louder. Images rose once again, but this time, they were of the four friends. Rosie's image showed her singing at sunrise, bringing comfort to the trees. Tivit's image was of him helping a lost baby mole find its way home. Hugo's image showed him covering Millie from the rain with a leaf. Millie showed her placing the heart seed gently into the stump, a small act filled with hope. Nereus smiled. The river sees your kindness. It will carry you. The water began to glow, and from beneath the surface rose 4 smooth stepping stones, each lit with soft light. One by one, the friends stepped across, the river humming happily as they passed. Halfway across, Rosie glanced down into the water. Instead of her reflection, she saw a shadow moving beneath, a long, dark shape swimming silently. What was that? She whispered. Nereus's voice turned more serious. The forest is not only light. Something stirs in the deep places. Keep your eyes open. The friends made it safely to the far side, where the trees grew close again, darker than before. Thank you, Millie said, turning back to Nereus. May the song stay with you, the river guardian replied before dissolving back into mist. After crossing the singing river, the forest grew darker, not frightening, but ancient, like it was holding secrets older than any of them could imagine. The trees here were tall and close, their trunks wrapped in dark green ivy and their branches hung with thick curtains of moss. Even the air feels heavier, Tibbet whispered. It's quiet, Hugo added. Too quiet. Rosie fluttered just ahead of them, her wings making hardly a sound. Stay close. The heartseed still glows, but we must be careful now. They followed the glowing pulse of the heartseed through the twisting woods until they came upon a strange sight, a tree so wide it could have held 10 squirrels side by side. But it was hollowed through, like a tunnel. Its inside glowed with a dim golden light, pulsing like a slow heartbeat. Do we go in? Asked Millie, her voice small. The path leads through, Rosie said gently. One by one, they entered the tree. It was cool inside, and their paw steps echoed. Strange shapes moved faintly on the inner bark, like shadows of animals long gone. The air shimmered, and suddenly a soft voice echoed all around them. Who walks with the heartseed? The friends froze. Tibbet squeaked. Who's asking? One who once guarded it, the voice said. It was neither kind nor cruel, just old and wise. The heartseed is not a toy. It is the memory of the forest. And you have awakened it. Millie stepped forward, trembling but brave. We didn't mean to disturb anything. We just want to help. The voice paused. Then it said, Do you understand the forest's pain? Rosie answered softly, We've seen memories. Of brightness. Of loss. Then listen. The light inside the hollow tree brightened, and the shadows on the bark began to move again. A story unfolded. Long ago, Fernwood was connected to 4 ancient roots, north, east, south, and west, each one a source of magic. But a shadow came, greedy and cold, and broke the connections. One by one, the roots dimmed, and the forest forgot its strength. The heartseed, a gift from the oldest tree, was hidden away to protect the last light. The north root, whispered Hugo. That must be where the feather came from. And we're walking the path of the heartseed now, said Millie. Maybe we can help restore the forest. The voice answered with warmth now. Then carry the light through the grove of thorns. There you must find what was buried. Rosie tilted her head. What should we look for? But the light dimmed, and the voice faded into the rustling hush of the tree. Tibbet shivered. Well, that wasn't creepy at all. The 4 stepped out of the hollow tree into an even deeper part of the forest. The air felt thick with magic. Twisted vines curled at their feet, and thorny brambles stretched across the path ahead. In the distance, they heard the faintest sound, a muffled rustling, like something moving, watching. The grove of thorns, said Millie. The journey was only growing stranger and deeper. But together, they walked on. The forest path twisted like a forgotten ribbon as the friends stepped into the grove of thorns. Here, the trees grew low and tangled, their branches weaving together like long, prickled arms. Vines coiled over everything, thick with black thorns that shimmered in the dim light like bits of glass. Tibbet looked around uneasily. I don't think this part of Fernwood wants visitors. Hugo stepped carefully, his big paws dodging the sharp plants. Watch your step. These thorns are cranky. Rosie fluttered ahead, her feathers brushing lightly against the leaves. I'll fly above the brambles and see if there's a clear way through. As she flew over the twisting vines, the feather in Millie's pouch began to glow softly, and the heartseed pulsed brighter. Millie touched the pouch gently. The feather is glowing more than ever. That must mean we're close to something. Suddenly, a thorned vine snapped up near Tibbet's foot. Eep, he yelped, jumping back. It moved. The vines slithered slowly, curling toward them, not fast or angry, just aware. Rosie swooped down. The grove is alive. It's testing us. Testing us. Hugo blinked. Yes, said Millie, standing very still. I can feel it too. It's like the plants are asking if we're here to hurt or to help. She stepped forward gently, opening the pouch. The heartseed glowed like a star in the shadows. Millie held it out. The vines paused. A single thorny branch reached forward, touching the air near the heartseed, and slowly, it bent backward, opening a small, narrow path through the tangled bramble. It's working, Rosie whispered. They followed the opening, stepping carefully through the narrow passageway. Around them, the thorns rustled softly, moving out of their way 1 inch at a time. The light dimmed further, and the air grew cooler. Then they reached a small clearing at the center of the grove. In the middle was a tree stump, cracked and blackened. Thick vines coiled around it like chains. At its base, something shimmered faintly beneath the brambles, a soft golden glow. It's buried, said Millie. Whatever it is, the forest doesn't want to let go. I'll help dig, Hugo offered. Together, the friends pulled away vines and cleared debris. The thorns resisted at first, but with the heartseed's light, they slowly loosened. At last, beneath the roots, they uncovered a small wooden charm shaped like a leaf, etched with ancient runes. Rosie gasped. It's a piece of the north root. A memory charm. As soon as Millie touched it, the charm pulsed, and a soft hum filled the air, gentle, calming. The vines froze, then slowly retreated, curling away from the stump and up into the trees. The clearing lit with a soft golden glow, and for the first time, sunlight streamed down through the thick branches. You did it, Rosie whispered. You freed a memory. The charm floated into the air and drifted toward the heartseed. The two pulsed together, root and seed, past and present. The golden path left behind by the grove of thorns shimmered like morning sun on a stream, leading the four friends onward. Rosie flew just above the trail, her feathers catching bits of light. Hugo carried Millie again so her tiny legs wouldn't tire, and Tibbet skipped along with a quiet hum, still thinking about the glowing charm they had uncovered. I didn't even know the forest could lose memories, he said. Rosie nodded. Not lost, just hidden. Like seeds waiting to bloom again. As they traveled deeper, the forest began to soften. The trees opened up, letting in dappled sunlight. A quiet warmth filled the air, and birdsong returned in sweet, sleepy notes. At last, the path ended in a glade, wide and circular, surrounded by tall golden grass. The moment they stepped in, everything went still. Tibbet yawned. Then Hugo yawned. Then even Millie's whiskers drooped. Rosie blinked slowly. Something's making us tired. They lay down together in the middle of the grass. Above them, the clouds swirled in slow motion, and the wind whispered lullabies. It wasn't scary or strange, it felt peaceful, like falling asleep in your favorite blanket. But just before Millie closed her eyes completely, she heard something. A distant voice. Don't forget why you came. Millie sat up with a jolt. Did anyone else hear that? Tibbet rubbed his eyes. I was dreaming of a jelly bean the size of a pumpkin. Rosie shook her head. There's magic here. Sleeping magic. We have to stay awake. But how? Hugo asked with a sleepy mumble. Millie rummaged through her pouch and pulled out the feather. It glowed gently, then shimmered brighter as if sensing her need. We follow the feather, she said. She held it in front of her, and it fluttered forward like a compass needle pointing north. The friends stumbled after it, pushing through the tall grass, their eyes heavy, their paws dragging. Each step took effort. The glade tugged at their minds, whispering, "Rest. Stay. Forget." But Millie held the heartseed close. "No," she whispered. "We remember." And then a breeze swept across the glade, strong and sudden, like the flap of a great bird's wings. The feather flared brightly. The spell broke. The glade shimmered like a dream unraveling. The golden grass folded back, revealing a stone path beneath their feet and a tall carved door ahead, moss-covered and half-hidden beneath ivy. "Is that a door?" Tibbet asked, fully awake now. Rosie landed beside it. "It's old. Very old." The carving showed animals walking side by side, holding tiny leaf-shaped charms. One spot in the carving was missing a charm, just a hollow outline. Millie looked down at the pouch holding the glowing charm from the grove of thorns. "I think it belongs here." She fit the charm into the hollow. Click. The door rumbled softly and slowly creaked open. Beyond it lay darkness and the sound of something breathing. The forest's heart was near. The friends stepped cautiously through the ancient doorway. Inside, the air was cool and smelled of earth and old leaves. The path wound downward, carved from stone and lined with glowing moss that lit their way. As they moved deeper, the soft sound of breathing grew louder, not heavy or scary, but calm and steady, like the forest itself was alive and breathing. "Do you think it's the forest's heart?" Millie whispered. "It must be," Rosie said softly. "The source of the magic." Suddenly, the tunnel opened into a vast cavern filled with roots and glowing crystals. In the center rested a large stone pulsing with light, the true heart seed. It shimmered with colors of the earth and sky, the past and future all woven into one soft glow. Bartholomew's voice echoed in their memories. "The heart seed is the memory of the forest." Millie stepped forward, holding the charm and feather close. She reached out gently, and the heart seed pulsed warmly under her paw. Then, from the shadows, a figure emerged, a great stag with antlers woven from vines and flowers, eyes deep pools of green. "I am Eldrin, guardian of the forest's heart," he said with a voice like rustling leaves. "You've come far," Eldrin said, bowing his head. "Fernwood has waited a long time for friends like you." Millie's voice trembled. "We want to help restore the forest." Eldrin nodded. "The heart seed and the memory charm will help renew the ancient roots. But it takes courage, trust, and friendship to heal what has been broken." Rosie fluttered close. "We have all three." Eldrin smiled, then lowered his great head. From his antlers fell 4 tiny seeds glowing softly, each representing a root to be restored: north, east, south, and west. "These must be planted in the forest's 4 corners," Eldrin explained. "Only then will Fernwood awaken fully." Tibbet's eyes sparkled. "We'll do it. Right, friends?" "Right," came the chorus. The cavern brightened as the heart seed pulsed faster. The forest itself seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. Eldrin stepped back into shadow. "The path is yours now. Go with the forest's blessing." The friends took the glowing seeds carefully, knowing their journey was far from over, but with hope shining in their hearts. Outside, Fernwood felt different, brighter, lighter, full of promise. And the adventure continued. The forest greeted them with a soft breeze as they stepped back into the sunlight. The 4 glowing seeds nestled carefully in Millie's pouch, warm and alive. "We have to plant these in the 4 corners of Fernwood," Rosie said, looking around. "But which way do we go first?" Bartholomew appeared, leaning on his oak staff with a knowing smile. "Follow the sun for the east seed. The wind will guide you to the north seed. The shadows lead to the west, and the roots will show the way to the south." Millie nodded. "We can do this, friends." Their first stop was the sunlit meadow, bathed in golden light and blooming with wildflowers swaying gently in the breeze. As they dug a small hole in the soft earth, Millie placed the east seed gently inside. Almost immediately, the ground trembled softly. From the seed grew a delicate sapling, its leaves shimmering like tiny suns. The forest around them seemed to brighten. Next, the friends followed a cool wind northward. They crossed sparkling brooks and climbed mossy hills until they reached the frosty pines. Here, the air was crisp and fresh, and snowdrops peeked through the grass. Millie planted the north seed beneath a tall pine, and again the earth hummed. The pine needles glowed faintly, and the wind carried soft songs of hope through the trees. The journey southward led them to the deep root grove, where the earth was thick with roots and rich with the smell of damp soil. Here, the seeds slipped between ancient roots, and the ground pulsed warmly as the roots awakened. Lastly, the shadowed path took them west to the twilight glade, where the light always seemed soft and quiet. Millie placed the final seed in the heart of the glade. A gentle light spread out in waves, washing over the trees and grass. As the seeds took root, the heart seed pulsed in Millie's pouch, glowing brighter than ever. "We did it," Tibbet whispered, wide-eyed. "Fernwood will heal," Rosie said, her voice full of wonder. Just then, the air shimmered, and all the forest creatures appeared. Bartholomew, Leora, Nereus, and even Eldrin the stag gathered to witness the forest's rebirth. The trees stretched tall, the flowers bloomed brighter, and the river hummed a joyful tune. Fernwood was waking, and their friendship had made all the difference. As the sun dipped behind the treetops, Fernwood Forest shimmered with new life. The air was filled with the sweet scent of blooming flowers and the gentle hum of busy insects preparing for night. In the great clearing, all the forest creatures gathered: birds, squirrels, mice, hedgehogs, and even Shy Fern the fox, who peeked out from behind a tree. "This calls for a celebration," Rosie chirped, fluttering excitedly. "After all, Fernwood is waking again." Tibbet bounced on his paws, clutching a small basket filled with nuts and berries. "I gathered the tastiest treats." Hugo rolled out a soft blanket of leaves and moss. "And I brought stories to share." Millie smiled, her heart full. "We couldn't have done this without each other." As night fell, glowing lanterns, just like those in the lantern grove, hung from the trees, casting a warm, golden light over the clearing. Eldrin, the great stag, stood tall in the center, his antlers sparkling with dew. "To friendship," he said, his deep voice carrying through the night. "To hope," added Bartholomew with a smile. The creatures sang and danced beneath the stars. Rosie led a chorus of bird songs, Tibbet performed acrobatic leaps, and Millie told tales of their journey with wide eyes and gentle words. Even the trees seemed to sway with joy, their leaves rustling in time with the music. As the night grew deeper, the friends settled together, wrapped in a blanket of twinkling stars and soft whispers of the forest. "Fernwood is home," Millie whispered. "And we'll always protect it," Rosie added. Tibbet yawned happily. "But after all that, I'm ready for a nap." Hugo laughed. "Me too." With hearts full and dreams ahead, the friends drifted off to sleep, ready for whatever adventures tomorrow would bring. Morning light spilled softly through the leaves, painting Fernwood in shades of gold and green. The friends awoke to the gentle songs of birds and the fresh scent of dew-kissed flowers. Millie stretched and looked around at her friends. "It feels different now, like the forest is breathing." Rosie preened her feathers. "It's alive with hope." Tibbet nibbled on a sweet berry. "I wonder what adventures tomorrow will bring." Hugo smiled. Whatever they are, we'll face them together. Bartholomew appeared, leaning on his oak staff with a knowing smile. You have done well, little ones. Fernwood is stronger because of your courage and kindness. Millie held the glowing heart seed carefully. We couldn't have done it without each other. Eldrin stepped forward, majestic and calm. Remember, the forest will always need friends like you. Protect it with your hearts. Rosie looked toward the horizon where the sun was rising. And we will. Together, they made a promise. A promise to care for Fernwood, to listen to its whispers, and to share its stories with those who would listen. As the sun climbed higher, the friends began their journey home, knowing the magic of the forest lived not just in seeds and stones, but in every act of friendship, courage, and hope. And though their adventure had changed the forest forever, it was only the beginning of many more stories to come. The friends walked slowly back through Fernwood, their hearts light and full. The forest around them was alive in ways they had never seen before, flowers blooming in bright colors, leaves shimmering softly, and the gentle hum of life all around. Millie glanced at the heartseed glowing warmly in her paw. It's like the forest is saying thank you. Rosie smiled and spread her wings wide. And it's saying, we're never alone. Tibbet bounced happily. I'm going to tell everyone about this adventure, about the magic and the friends who saved Fernwood. Hugo looked up at the towering trees. And we'll keep exploring, learning, and protecting. They reached the great clearing where the ancient stump stood tall, now vibrant and glowing with new life. The heartseed pulsed gently, a heartbeat that echoed through the forest. Bartholomew was waiting for them, his eyes warm with pride. You've brought Fernwood back to its song. Will the magic ever end? Millie asked. Magic never ends, Bartholomew replied softly. It lives in every creature, every leaf, and every kind act. As long as there are friends like you, Fernwood will always thrive. The friends gathered close, feeling the gentle evening breeze wrap around them like a soft hug. Good night, Fernwood, whispered Millie.